Well. Welcome, guys, to the IEM Katowice play-in reflection and the IEM Katowice, future tips and future picks, since we have to do this in one day because it goes from play-ins to group stage right away. Well, we're going to do a quick reflection of how everything went. Now, first of all, let's go to my picks, where I said OG would get through. I said Big would get through. Cloud9 would get through. I said Nip wouldn't get through. I believe that was the case. Spirit would get through. Didn't say Complexity would get through. Didn't say IHC would get through. But I did say Fnatic would get through. And I gotta say 6 out of 8 ain't too bad on the picks. And I gotta say some massive upsets happened in here as well. Most importantly, I gotta say IHC taking Fury down was such a massive upset. Just clowns up the other upset they did as well. They chalked up the other team in pain. And it took them out of the competition as well. And basically, IHC were effectively the cleaners of the competition. Now, looking at the losers, Pain was a big surprise. I didn't expect Pain to go out this early. Greyhound expected. Permitter expected. Evil Geniuses, sadly, expected. But they did show some promise at least. But to be fair, overall, they should not be really being an SL partner if everyone's being serious. I think Kassad's little skit is actually more accurate than not. MARBR, Furia, big surprises being knocked out here. And the big one in particular is Ents. Ents being knocked out here is crazy. And Sprout as well. Given the players they have, I know Sprout has an new IGL being refresh, and refresh doesn't really IGL too much. Ents is a big one that shouldn't be here. I think Ents should have really qualified there. And I think it's just a massive fall from grace that Ents did not qualify. I mean, they did have a hard BO3 against Cloud9, but they realistically should have taken whoever was at the lower bracket out easily 2-0. And, basically, this is a huge disappointment for Ents overall. Now, let's talk about the teams that qualified. Fnatic expected to probably qualify 5th to 8th. That team is, good, but not, up there good. So 5th to 8th is probably realistically the best spot they're going to get, especially given their path as well. They have to verse OG and a few other top teams as well to get there. IHC, I've got to say, after that BO1 loss, they recovered and actually smashed out those BO3s. I actually expected them to get eliminated purely because I said that they usually underperform at big tournaments. And they played incredibly well. I mean, Annihilation, what a revelation. They basically took out 9 and put Annihilation in. Annihilation is paid in droves with the aggressive AWPing type, and also the one Deagles. The amount of 1v4, I think it was 1v4 he did with a Deagle, but the amount of crazy 1-digs he was able to do. Complexity, gotta give it to Complexity here. They're recovering, and they performed very well at this tournament. I actually expected them to go out in the first Sora round, and they're able to grind out a couple of wins to get into Katowice, which is huge. Spirit expected. I actually didn't expect them to lose to Nip. I expected to beat them to Nip 2-1, but they got it in the end. Spirit's definitely a staple team in this IEM Katowice. They're good enough. They're good enough to make it down to the majors. They're good enough to make it to Katowice. Nip, I guess they probably unexpected. I expected Nip to qualify 5th to 8th, but Nip got the job done. They got the 2-0 in the BO3 against Spirit, and a crushing 2-0, may I add, which is amazing, and they would have loved that. Cloud9, Big, and OG probably all expected to go 2-0 and get to Katowice, given the quality of their team. OG, Cloud9, Big are just way too good for the play-in division. Now, for the play-ins, for future reference as well, I feel like, Permitter really was the odd team out, as well as Greyhound, and maybe EG as well. There was kind of the odd teams out, where they were just basically punching bags for the rest of the competition, which is not a nice sight to see, especially since I'm Australian, and I don't like seeing Australian teams being effectively a punching bag. To be fair, Greyhound did win one map against MIBR, but just basically folded like a chair on the third map, which isn't really good when you have a crucial crush from Vexite to win the map 16-14 on Anubis, and then just fall over like that 16-2. I just don't like it. Hopefully they can recover and bounce back, because it's a crushing loss. Now let's get to Katowice itself, okay? Let's get to Katowice itself. So with Katowice, we've got the 8 teams previously. That was the wrong Katowice. Good work, Josh. We got Katowice from not yet. Obviously, the previous Katowice. So the Katowice teams we got is Heroic with the new logo. Reminds me of the mouse logo when they reinvented it. G2, FaZe, Liquid, Outsiders, Na'Vi, Vitality, Mouse being the teams qualifying from ESL ranking. Obviously, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on HLTV rating respectively. Then you got Fnatic, OG, Cloud9, Spirit, Big, Nip, Complexity, and IHC. Now, IHC is the only one outside the top 20 in HLTV, and their rating will increase, as expected, to be honest. They've got some really good players in this team. I mean, look at it. You can't find really a weakness in that team. Now, let's take a look at Heroic. Heroic's got the same lineup with Exist as coach. Storm returns to the lineup as well. It's going to be huge for them as well. I think Heroic are going to go pretty decent. G2, obviously, with JKS being added with Hooksy, the Giga Chad being on board as well. I'm not sure. G2 is the hardest team to really predict because they are very up and down. They're very inconsistent, and that's why G2 has been reading too much. Is that they're either really, really good or really, really crap. And you have to be consistent throughout the entire tournament, otherwise it's going to fall apart. And I feel G2 is probably going to fall apart towards the end part of it. Probably will get through the group stages, but will fall apart in the finals at some stage. FaZe, this team is very complete. I mean, you can't really add or take away any players at this point. I know a lot of analysts are basically hyping themselves up of taking Rain and trying to get another player into the mix. Realistically, like, if you take Rain out of the mix, it's going to be very, very difficult to find a replacement that's available in the free agency market that they won't pay a premium for. Everyone keeps suggesting players that are with other teams where the team that's got them's going to be like, mate, you're going to be paying triples, or doubles. The only player realistically they can probably take up if they want to replace Rain is Config. And everyone will complain that Config's been given another chance in this thing. You can never win with picking up new players. Liquid, Yukinda is basically the heart and soul of this team at this stage. He's definitely the main playmaker, stuff like that. The three players around him just all there to support Yukinda, and essentially, basically, they have their own little star moments here and there, but Yukinda is a heart and soul in their team, and they built around him basically as well. Apparently, according to some sources, Yukinda apparently is IGLing, which I'm going to say right now, Yukinda, don't fall into the Nico trap, okay? You can't be the star player and IGL at the same time. Sometimes you got to let the other players, basically, what was it called? Fulfill your purpose as the star player, the ones that, able to perform. And I'd say pretty much it. Now everyone's going to be like, oh, that's like telling him to stay in his lane. I'm like, yeah, for his own sake. Because being IG on a star player is very difficult, as Nico's found out in G2. Outsiders, they've lost Buster. They've also lost, I believe, they lost Norbert as well. They're replacing with Chiron, as expected, because people were expecting Chiron to be next up and up player. Still the same roster as it was basically Virtus Pro previously. Why it haven't been changed to Virtus Pro, I have no idea. They should be changed to Virtus Pro. There's no issue now. Virtus Pro is now owned by Armenian organization, not owned by Russians anymore. I don't know how this hasn't been changed yet, but basically, this is Virtus Pro, should be Virtus Pro. Na'Vi, I've got to say, Na'Vi's in a bit of a slump at the moment, to be honest. Like, something's up there. Like, they haven't, Simple's been posting very low ratings. Could be over the hill, not sure. But this team has been struggling. They're the definition of struggle. I don't expect Na'Vi to perform very well here, to be honest. I could say out of the group stages. Outsiders, so I forgot them. Outsiders, I'm going to say right now, probably get through the group stages. Liquid will probably get through the group stages, but Na'Vi, unlikely. Vitality, they picked up Spinks. Good pickup. I gotta say that towards the end of last season, they performed very, very well, making some deep runs. Probably should expect them to get out of, I was gonna say maybe they just falter out of groups barely, but it'll be a tough all run for them. Mouse, I gotta say, this roster has so much potential, it's crazy. This is a young roster. You gotta realize, like, these rosters here all have an all older average than Mouse's roster. Mouse's rosters, the oldest person in it is Dexter by probably about 8 or 7 years or so. But you got so much young talent here as well. And the crazy thing is that they're not terribly inconsistent. With younger players and stuff like that, where they go from up and down, up and down, up and down. This team's not inconsistent, like wildly inconsistent, wildly volatile, as say some G2 and other teams like that, or other younger teams in tier 2 scene. And this is why Mouse is rank 8, because they are not a volatile team. They are actually quite consistent for a team of their age. Now, there's a lot of potential in it as well. I guess Mouse need to make a deep run to show some progress here in that team. Okay, they can't have any knockout in the group stages. They need to make a deep run here. I reckon they'll get to semis, okay? Semifinals, mainly because of the fact that, you got Heroic, G2, FaZe, Outsiders, Na'Vi, Vitality, and Liquid. And they're going to get to a point where they're going to face these tough teams over and over and over again. That even though they've got, the youth and stuff like that as well, they'll just get mentally tired over and over again compared to the veterans who've been through this over and over again. Or maybe they can spring to the grand finals and win the entire event, but that's going to be very, very tough against all these teams up here. Next up, we got Fnatic. I gotta say, Fnatic did make it through at 5th and 8th. They've been showing some pretty decent signs. I don't expect them to get out of group stages, but some absolute progress for Fnatic getting to Katowice in the first place, considering where they were roughly a year ago where they didn't even qualify for the major. OG, it's gonna really, OG is another team with a younger lineup, but you never know where they're gonna end up. Okay, they're a bit more inconsistent compared to Mouse. OG did look very, very good though in the play-ins. Gonna be very, very rough for them though. I expect them to go out in groups as well, probably towards the end. Cloud9 will probably get to the finals. Okay, This team, very unlikely to be in the play-ins. Poor major performances, though. Only Shiro really shining there. But looking at the addition of Buster and also Axel and a few others coming to the fray, it's looking pretty decent so far. I'm actually a bit afraid that the fact that they got rid of Inters there, not sure how that was going to end up. Hopefully, in the long term, it's a good experience for them. Spirit, this roster is another young roster as well. Spirit, I gotta say, similar with Mouse, they're very consistent, but just don't have the firepower, to match it. Chopper's led, these guys for quite a while. I still think that the firepower, like it's only a minimal amount of firepower. It's not like a, basically, a lake and stuff like that, like a bombshell. Just minimal firepower that's going to really crush them at the end. They'll probably get really close to making out the group stages, but they won't make it out. Big will probably get eliminated in the group stages. I'm going to say Big get through to play in pretty easily versus some pretty good teams. But overall, I expect to go out in the group stages. It's just, even with this lineup with Crimbo, Keto, Sirius, Tabson, and Faven, it just won't match the tier 1 teams, and they'll probably get exposed and probably go out in a lot of brackets early on. We'll see how Big goes, but Big can, they can surprise as well. They can perform incredibly well and just shock the world. Nip, this is going to be basically with Nip, with Config and Head Trick. I don't expect them to get out of the group stages. Main reason why is I don't think, when you have a team that's only played together for 2 to 3 months, it really tests you when you versus these tier 1 teams that have been together for quite a bit, and it's going to be incredibly rough for them to make it through. Overall, Head Trick and Config have been pretty decent for the team. You got your Alex to be with the IGL. We just going to have to say at this stage, we're going to see how it all turns up in the end. Obviously, no Crims, but, that's pretty much it. I just got to say, sorry, not no Crims, sorry, no Essa tag. For some reason, I thought I was looking at Fnatic, and I'm like, what? But either way, like I say, I feel like Nip could go out in the lower stages. It's mainly because of the fact they got 2 new players in, new roster, doesn't really help out at all, especially in the tier 1 tournaments where basically teamwork is a must. You're going to be playing a lot of team-based maps. Complexity, I gotta say, at this point, anything is a bonus for them at this stage. They've made it to Katowice, which they weren't expected to. If they get out of group stages, it's really good progress for Complexity. I mean, this team was basically written off with Fang, Grim, Floppy, JT, and Holzerg. They've got definitely some key players in there as well. And people wrote them off as like, they're not going to get anywhere. They're pretty average and stuff like that. And they've been writing them off ever since. I mean, people have been harping up Evil Geniuses and some other NA teams, but Complexity hasn't really been seen or talked about really as well, which is quite disappointing. Complexity being the silent horse in it all. But we'll see what happens. I reckon Complexity, if they make it to finals, it's basically humongous steps from where they were previously. And then, good on them, especially Grim as well. I like to see an ex-Triumph player, especially Grim, doing really well. Last but not least is the dark horse, the Mongolian team, IHC. Now, IHC, they are very good mechanically. They have, you got Score, Blitz, and Techno, who are absolutely guns mechanically. I mean, they can decimate teams that just can't match their aim. Cabal, definitely a good IGL, and Annihilation, an AWP that they needed. I mean, when they had 9 in the AWP lineup, he was very passive, and the playstyle from IHC is very aggressive and in your face kind of thing. So 9 really didn't fit it. So they picked up Annihilation, who's really more in your face. And IHC are going to say, this is going to be, as I said before, are they going to underachieve or overachieve? At this stage, they've already overachieved what they should be getting into. I didn't expect them to even qualify for Katowice. This is a big event for IHC. If IHC get to finals, I gotta say they've overachieved with what they've got, and that's a good thing for them as well. I mean, 2 pitiful major performances as well, where they didn't even get past the play-in stage, where I feel they really should have got past the play-in stage, because they've got a good team here. They've got a very good team here, and they've got a team that has boundless potential. If they don't qualify for finals, maybe next time. Again, I'm just gonna say this time, because they are getting bigger and better and used to this pressure. And I think qualifying for Katowice has probably lifted a huge rabbit or hamster off their back, basically, as well, because they've been just getting banged out in these playing situations bit by bit without no real fight, just falling apart under pressure. I mean, one game in particular was against Astralis, where they really should have beat them on Nuke, but it just fell apart. But that's my Katowice guideline here, guys. I expect these teams to qualify to the finals. I expect Heroic, G2, FaZe, Outsiders, Liquid, Mouse, Fnatic, Cloud9. I think that's 7 teams, right? Or 8 teams. I expect those 8 teams, so it's going to be Heroic, G2, FaZe, Liquid, Mouse, Na'Vi, Fnatic, and Cloud9 to qualify. Um, it's going to be very interesting, okay? That's why I expect those teams to qualify. The other teams I feel like that could make it to the finals would be Outsiders on Vitality, given their previous runs. But it's just very difficult to, like, decide who's going to make it where, you know? Who's going to make it where. It's very, very difficult. Actually, I forgot. There's a group stage. But yeah, okay, let's just go through it here, okay? So I don't look like a dumbass, okay? So I expect Liquid to go for... I expect Liquid... I expect Cloud9 to probably go through up in here. And probably expect a few other teams to go through down here as well. I think it's a... let me check the playoffs. Is it a... trying to check the bracket for the playoffs, but either way, there's only 6 teams in the playoffs. I think there is 6 teams because one team would just go here instead. I would expect, I would say, you know, let's get real here. I expect FaZe to get the top socket and Cloud9 and G2 to get the bottom sockets. I expect Heroic to get the top sockets and Mouse and Outsiders to get the bottom sockets. So let's put it that way. Sorry, I forgot there's only 6 teams in playoffs. But anyways, guys, that's it for the video. I gotta say, probably ignored the last part of what I said. But yeah, hope to see you guys then, and hope to see you guys for the Katowice playoffs. See you guys later.